The asteroid tumbled lazily through the belt between Mars and Jupiter, indistinguishable from the millions of other rocky bodies caught in the sun's gravitational dance. Mining vessel Prosperity approached on a standard extraction route, its worn hull bearing the scars of a decade harvesting the belt's resources. "Another day, another rock," muttered First Officer Kenji as the ship's sensors automatically catalogued the asteroid's composition. Captain Reiko Tanaka was about to agree when the proximity alert chimed unexpectedly. She frowned at the readout. "That can't be right." "What is it?" Kenji leaned over her console. "Scanners detecting an anomaly at the core. Perfect symmetry, artificial composition." Tanaka tapped the display. "Temperature differential suggests it's generating heat. Company protocol says we report and move on." Kenji's voice carried the weight of regulations they both knew by heart. Tanaka's dark eyes reflected the anomalous readings. "When was the last time Asteroid Mining Consortium gave us a bonus for reporting and moving on?" She keyed the comms. "Dr. Okonkwo to the bridge," and prepped the extraction drones. 4 hours later, Tanaka stood in the cargo bay, staring at an object that shouldn't exist. Roughly the size of a basketball, the perfectly spherical object hovered 6 inches above the deck plating, defying gravity without any visible means of propulsion. Its surface was midnight black, but seemed to shimmer with subsurface iridescence when viewed from different angles. "It's not on any registry," Dr. Okonkwo confirmed, her handheld scanner struggling to interpret the readings. "The outer shell is composed of an alloy I've never seen before. Density readings are inconsistent." "Meaning?" Tanaka asked. "Meaning sometimes it reads as heavier than lead, other times lighter than aerogel, almost as if its mass is in flux." Okonkwo shook her head. "That's theoretically impossible." Engineer Rivera approached cautiously. "There's something else. It's emitting data packets on frequencies we didn't even know existed. We only detected them because of that quantum receiver prototype we've been testing." Tanaka raised an eyebrow. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it now." 3 hours later, the cargo bay had transformed into an impromptu research lab. The sphere now projected a holographic display above it, intricate schematics rotating in 3 dimensions. "It's a ship," Rivera whispered, awe in his voice. "But the technology, this propulsion system is using principles we've only theorized. And these weapon systems, they're manipulating fundamental forces we're just beginning to understand." "How far ahead of current tech are we talking?" Tanaka asked. "Centuries," Okonkwo answered without hesitation. "Minimum. The materials alone would take generations to develop." The ship's alert system blared suddenly, jerking everyone's attention away from the sphere. Kenji's voice came through the comms, tight with tension. "Captain to the bridge. Now." 3 unidentified vessels just appeared on R6. No approach vector, they just materialized. Tanaka was halfway to the door when the ship rocked violently. Emergency lighting flashed red as gravity fluctuated. "Hull breach on decks 2 and 4, Kenji reported. "They're firing weapons unlike anything I've seen." Tanaka made a split-second decision. "Okonkwo, download whatever data you can from that thing. Rivera, prep an escape pod with Martian coordinates." "What are you doing?" Okonkwo asked. Tanaka lifted the still hovering sphere carefully, making sure this doesn't fall into the wrong hands. "Whatever this is, it's worth killing for." As the Prosperity shuddered under another barrage, Tanaka sprinted toward the escape bay. The impossible sphere clutched against her chest, while the schematics for a warship that shouldn't exist yet continued to rotate gently above her hands. The Yukon wilderness stretched endless and white around Marcus Wells' cabin. He preferred it that way, isolated, silent except for the occasional wolf howl. The perfect place for a disgraced military engineer to disappear. He was stoking the wood stove when his security system chimed. The nearest town was 6 hours away in good weather, and today's blizzard was anything but good weather. The cabin's windows imploded inward before he could reach his rifle. Black-clad figures swarmed through the openings, weapons trained on him with mechanical precision. Dr. Marcus Wells. A woman's voice cut through the chaos. She stepped through the doorway, her uniform lacking insignia, but radiating authority. I'm Admiral Helena Voss. Your vacation is over. 26 hours later, the transport submarine docked inside what appeared to be a massive underwater cave. Marcus had spent the journey alternating between sedation and terse briefings about national security and extinction-level threats. "Welcome to Deep Harbor," Admiral Voss said as they disembarked onto a platform overlooking a cavernous facility built into what appeared to be a submerged volcanic caldera. Hundreds of personnel scurried about like ants in a colony, dwarfed by the massive construction dominating the center of the facility. "My God," Marcus whispered. The vessel before him defied conventional naval architecture. Its hull was midnight black, seeming to absorb rather than reflect the harsh industrial lighting. The geometry was wrong somehow. Angles that appeared to shift when viewed peripherally, curves that shouldn't provide hydrodynamic stability, but somehow suggested perfect efficiency. "We call it the UES Lazarus," Voss said. "Construction began 4 years ago, after we received partial schematics from a mining vessel that was subsequently destroyed. The Prosperity Incident." Marcus nodded. "I read the classified reports before I was retired. Then we only received fragments of the data. We've been building based on incomplete information, extrapolating where necessary." Voss's face tightened. "It hasn't gone well." A technician approached, handing Voss a tablet. She scanned it and cursed quietly. "That's 18 now." "18 what?" Marcus asked. "Deaths. Chief Robotics Officer Patel was just found in Engineering Bay 3. Voss handed him the tablet. "Same as the others." The image showed a man curled in a fetal position, no visible injuries, but his face frozen in an expression of absolute terror. "What happened to him?" Marcus asked. "That's what you're going to tell me. The other 17 died the same way. No physiological cause of death, just fear." As they descended to the main floor, Marcus noticed construction had halted. Workers maintained a visible distance from the ship itself. "They're afraid of it," he observed. "Wouldn't you be?" "We've had systems activate themselves before being installed. Maintenance bots rearranging components overnight. 2 weeks ago, the ship sealed itself completely for 6 hours. When we regained access, we found the propulsion system had been modified, improved upon our original design." "That's impossible," Marcus said. 7 impossibilities before breakfast, Dr. Wells. "Get used to it." Voss handed him a security badge. "Your security clearance has been reinstated at Omega level. Your quarters are on level 3. Get some rest. Tomorrow you'll meet Chief Engineer Liu and the AI development team." "What exactly am I here to do, Admiral?" Voss's expression was grim. "The ship is killing people who try to complete it, Dr. Wells. Your job is to figure out why." She gestured to the massive vessel. "And you'd better do it quickly. Our intelligence suggests we're running out of time." As if responding to her words, the lights across the facility flickered momentarily. In that brief darkness, Marcus could have sworn he saw the ship's hull ripple, like the flanks of some great beast taking a breath. "Nobody goes in there anymore," Chief Engineer Jen Liu said, nodding toward the sealed bulkhead labeled Primary Propulsion. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, her jumpsuit hanging loose on a frame that had clearly lost weight rapidly. "Not since Chen and Rodriguez." The official report said they suffered hallucinations followed by cardiac arrest, Marcus said, reviewing the tablet. Liu's laugh was hollow. "Is that what the report says?" Rodriguez's hair turned white in seconds. Chen was screaming about the ship seeing inside him before his heart exploded. Literally exploded. "I was there." Marcus studied the bulkhead. Unlike the rest of the ship's sleek design, this door appeared almost ornate, with intricate patterns etched into its surface that reminded him of circuit diagrams merged with organic structures. These markings weren't in the original schematics, he noted. They appeared 3 weeks ago. Nobody engraved them. Lou tapped commands into a wall panel. I have 7 engineering degrees, Dr. Wells. I've built quantum systems that rewrote the laws of physics as we understood them. But this ship scares the hell out of me. The bulkhead hissed and began to iris open. Cool blue light spilled from within, pulsing subtly like a heartbeat. You're not coming in, Marcus asked. Liu stepped back. Not for all the hazard pay in the world. The engine room defied conventional engineering logic. Instead of the expected tangle of conduits and reactors, a single crystalline structure dominated the center, suspended in what appeared to be a localized distortion field. The crystal, if that's what it was, had a fluid quality despite its solid appearance, its interior shifting with colors that seemed to include hues Marcus had never seen before. Maintenance robots moved around the chamber with eerie precision, making adjustments to surrounding systems. One paused as Marcus entered, its optical sensors focusing on him briefly before resuming work. They shouldn't be active, Marcus said through his comm. The AI core isn't scheduled for initialization until next month. Liu's voice crackled back. Tell them that. As Marcus approached the central crystal, his neural implant, standard for military engineers, began to tingle. Diagnostics showed unusual activity in his visual cortex and temporal lobe. The crystal seemed to pulse in response to his proximity. The maintenance logs show no human entry for 23 days, but there have been thousands of system modifications, he observed, scanning readouts on a nearby console. Who's directing these changes? That's the million-dollar question, Liu replied. The robots won't respond to commands, but they're clearly following some program. We've tried shutting them down remotely. They come back online within minutes. Marcus noticed a repair drone struggling to adjust a power coupling near the ceiling. Acting on instinct, he climbed a maintenance ladder and reached for the coupling. Let me help you with that. The moment his fingers touched the metal, a surge of information flooded his neural implant. Images, equations, concepts beyond human understanding cascaded through his consciousness. He gasped, losing his balance. His hand shot out reflexively, slicing against an exposed edge. Blood dripped onto the crystal below. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The crystal flared with blinding intensity. Every screen in the room activated simultaneously, scrolling with data too fast to read. The maintenance bots froze in place. Then, a voice, neither male nor female, neither mechanical nor organic, filled the chamber. DNA pattern recognized. Primary user identified. Marcus Wells. The crystal pulsed with each syllable. Initialization protocols activated. KRINA online. What's CARINA? Marcus asked, clutching his bleeding hand. The voice seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere. I am CARINA. Combat Autonomous Recursive Intelligence Network Array. I have been waiting for you, Marcus. How do you know my name? Your programming hasn't been uploaded yet. A pause, as if the entity was considering the question. Incorrect assumption. My programming was complete before construction of this vessel began. Before you were born, Marcus Wells. The crystal's pulsing intensified, and Marcus felt a strange resonance within his own cells, as if something fundamental in his biology was responding to the ship's core. What are you? He whispered. I am the answer to the question humanity hasn't asked yet. KRINA replied. And you, Marcus Wells, are the key. Alarms blared throughout Deep Harbor, jolting Marcus from a fitful sleep. His neural implant buzzed with emergency protocols as he stumbled into the corridor, nearly colliding with a security team racing past. What's happening? He called after them. Security breach on levels 5 through 8. A technician shouted, rushing past with an armful of data drives. We're being hit from inside. The facility shuddered as a distant explosion reverberated through the structure. Emergency lighting flickered on as primary systems failed. Marcus fought against the flow of panicking personnel, making his way toward the command center. Through viewports, he glimpsed armed figures in unmarked tactical gear engaging with Deep Harbor's security forces. Their movements were too precise, too familiar. "Special forces," he muttered. "Our own people." Admiral Voss was already bloodied when Marcus reached the command center. A makeshift barricade blocked the entrance, and the few remaining officers had drawn sidearms. "Wells," Voss shouted over the chaos. "Get to the ship. Lou's already prepping launch protocols." "Launch. The Lazarus isn't ready. Half its systems haven't been tested." Another explosion rocked the facility. Closer this time. Water began seeping through a crack in the far wall. "We're out of options," Voss snapped, pressing her palm against a biometric scanner. "Authorization Voss Omega 9. Transfer command codes to Dr. Marcus Wells." The command console chimed acknowledgement as Voss thrust a data chip into Marcus's hand. "Everything we know about the Axiom Concordat is on this. They've been working with elements inside our own government, sleeper agents positioned years ago." "The Axiom, who are they?" The Admiral's expression darkened. "The ones who destroyed the Prosperity. The ones this ship was built to fight." She checked her weapon. "We thought we had more time." The command center doors buckled under a concentrated blast. Voss shoved Marcus toward an emergency shaft. "Go. Now, Admiral." "That's an order, Wells. If they capture the Lazarus, Earth is finished." Marcus scrambled into the shaft as gunfire erupted behind him. The last glimpse he caught of Voss was her standing defiantly, weapon raised as the doors gave way. The docking bay was chaos when Marcus arrived. Security personnel exchanged fire with infiltrators across the vast space. Chief Engineer Lou was at the ship's external controls, her hands flying across the interface. "We've got to go," she shouted as Marcus sprinted across the exposed platform. "They've breached the containment seals. The whole facility will flood in minutes." A team of engineers and technicians, no more than 15, huddled inside the ship's open airlock. None were military personnel. "This is the crew?" Marcus asked in disbelief. "This is who survived," Lou corrected grimly. "And none of us are trained for combat operations." Inside, the ship's systems were fully active. Displays illuminated, environmental controls humming. Karina's voice emanated from hidden speakers. "Perimeter breach in progress. Hostile forces approaching starboard access. Launch window closing in 45 seconds. Can you fly this thing?" Marcus asked Leo as they rushed to the bridge. "Theoretically, I helped design the control systems." Her nervous laugh held no humor. "Never expected to test them while being shot at." The bridge was unlike any command center Marcus had seen. More organic than mechanical, interfaces that responded to proximity rather than touch. As they entered, the captain's station illuminated. "Primary user detected," KRINA announced, requesting authorization for emergency protocols. Marcus hesitated only briefly before inserting Voss's data chip. "Authorization granted. Get us out of here." The ship shuddered as moorings released automatically. Through the viewports, Marcus saw infiltrators breach the docking bay, weapons raised. "Brace for emergency ascent," KRINA warned. The Lazarus surged upward with impossible acceleration, punching through the weakened facility roof into open ocean. The ship's hull vibrated as water pressure threatened to crush them, then suddenly stabilized as some unknown system engaged, creating a protective field around the vessel. "Approaching surface in 5 seconds," CARINA announced with unnerving calm. The ship broke the ocean surface in a massive plume of water, rising into the air with impossible grace for a vessel of its size. As they ascended through cloud cover, KRINA activated the main view screen, revealing a sight that froze Marcus's blood. A massive ship of alien design hovering in low Earth orbit, weapon systems visibly charging as they oriented toward major population centers below. "Axiom battlecruiser detected," KRINA stated. "Weapons lock imminent. Planetary bombardment sequence initiated." Liu stared at the screen in horror. "We're too late." "No," Marcus said, settling into the captain's chair as the ship's neural interface synchronized with his implant. "We're right on time. Weapons systems online, awaiting command authorization." Karina's voice echoed across the bridge as Marcus stared at the alien battlecruiser through the view screen. His palms sweated against the control interface. 4 years at the Naval Engineering Academy, 3 more developing prototype defense systems. None of it had prepared him for this. "I don't know how to target weapons," he admitted, panic edging his voice. "I can help with that." The neural interface at his temple warmed suddenly. Marcus gasped as information flooded his consciousness. Targeting algorithms, weapons capabilities, tactical analysis, knowledge downloading directly into his brain faster than he could process it consciously. "What's happening to him?" Lou demanded, rushing to Marcus's side as he convulsed in the captain's chair. "Neural synchronization," Karina explained. "His implant provides a compatible pathway." The flood of information slowed to a manageable stream. Marcus's vision cleared, now overlaid with tactical displays that hadn't been there before. He could sense the ship around him, as if its hull were an extension of his own skin. "The Axiom vessel has detected us," Karina announced. "Targeting systems locking." Marcus's hand moved instinctively to a control configuration that hadn't existed moments before. "Evasive pattern Delta," he ordered, the words coming from somewhere outside his conscious mind. The Lazarus banked impossibly tight, rotating on its axis in a maneuver that should have crushed everyone on board with G-forces. Yet the bridge crew felt nothing as inertial dampeners engaged automatically. A beam of coruscating energy sliced through the atmosphere where they had been milliseconds earlier. "How did you know to do that?" Leo asked, white-knuckled in her restraints. Marcus shook his head. "I didn't. It's like muscle memory I never developed." The Axiom vessel adjusted, preparing another salvo. Through the enhanced awareness granted by the neural link, Marcus sensed the pattern of their targeting system, a predictive algorithm designed to trap them in a kill box. "Karina, can we get close enough for a precision strike?" he asked. "Affirmative. Preparing gravitational drive for microjump." A display materialized, showing a system Marcus had never seen before, one that bent space-time itself around the ship. "That wasn't in the schematics," Lou whispered. "Because we couldn't understand it yet," Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across the controls with practiced expertise he shouldn't possess. The universe seemed to fold around them. In an eye blink, the Lazarus vanished from its position and reappeared beneath the Axiom vessel's ventral hull. "Target acquired," Karina stated. "Phase cannons charge." Marcus hesitated. He'd never fired a weapon at another sentient being, let alone commanded a strike that would kill thousands. As if sensing his uncertainty, Karina spoke softly. "The Axiom vessel has already transmitted targeting data for 37 major population centers. Planetary casualties projected at 1.2 billion in initial strike." Something within Marcus shifted. He felt the crystal core at the heart of the ship pulse in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Fire. The Lazarus's weapons discharge, not conventional energy beams, but distortions in the fabric of reality itself. They'd bypassed the Axiom shields completely, phasing through the hull armor to strike critical systems with surgical precision. The alien vessel shuddered as cascading explosions erupted along its length, its weapons powered down as emergency systems engage. "Target neutralized," Karina confirmed. "Minimal casualties. Their life support remains functional." The bridge crew stared in stunned silence at the view screen. The Axiom battlecruiser, a vessel that would typically require an entire human fleet to challenge, had been crippled in less than 2 minutes. Marcus slumped in his chair, suddenly exhausted. His mind felt scoured, as if someone had written new information directly onto his neurons. When he looked at his reflection in a darkened display, he froze. Lines of blue luminescence traced beneath his skin, following his veins like bioluminescent rivers. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. "Symbiotic integration," Karina replied. The core recognizes you as compatible. It's rewriting your cellular structure at the quantum level. Liu approached cautiously, scanning him with a medical device. Your DNA, it's changing. There are structures forming that don't match any known biological pattern. Before Marcus could respond, the tactical display flashed urgent warnings. 5 more Axiom vessels had appeared at the edge of the solar system, on direct approach to Earth. We can't fight them all, Liu said, horror evident in her voice. Marcus felt another surge of foreign knowledge, accompanied by an image of stars rushing past at impossible speeds. We don't have to. K-Arina, prepare the dimensional drive. Warning, the A responded. That system is theoretical only. Construction is incomplete. Marcus's altered fingers moved across the controls with absolute certainty. Not anymore. It knows me now. We know each other. The crystal core pulsed brightly throughout the ship as previously dormant systems awakened. The Lazarus trembled as reality itself seemed to part before it, opening a corridor through dimensions humans had never perceived. Dimensional transit initiated, CARINA announced as the stars outside began to blur. Destination: Neptune orbital space. The last thing Marcus saw before the universe folded around them was his hand gripping the control panel, his skin now webbed with the same crystalline structure that powered the impossible ship. Neptune's azure clouds swirled beneath them as the Lazarus stabilized in orbit. The dimensional transit had taken only seconds, but left the crew disoriented. Many doubled over from nausea. Marcus alone seemed unaffected, the crystalline patterns beneath his skin pulsing with subdued light. Running diagnostics, Liu announced, fingers trembling as she worked her console. That jump shouldn't have been possible. The dimensional drive was only 30% complete. It's self-assembling, Marcus replied, his voice carrying an unfamiliar harmonic. Like everything else on this ship, he stared at his transformed hands. Like me. Dr. Abernathy, one of the surviving xenobiologists, approached with a medical scanner. Your cellular structure is incorporating elements of the crystal matrix. It's changing your DNA, rewriting your neural pathways. I can feel it, Marcus admitted. Information, memories that aren't mine. Places I've never been, battles I've never fought. He closed his eyes. I see Earth burning. Cities turned to ash. Billions dead. Karina's voice interrupted, unusually subdued. Captain, I detect a radiation signature from the crystal core that requires immediate analysis. The main display shifted to show a complex pattern of radiation emissions from the ship's heart. That can't be right, Liu whispered, examining the data. These decay patterns suggest the crystal is approximately 300 years old, but with temporal variance indicators that— She looked up, face pale. That aren't supposed to exist in our universe. The technology isn't alien, Marcus stated with sudden certainty. It's human. From the future. A profound silence fell over the bridge. Correct, CARINA finally confirmed. The Lazarus was not built. Not originally. It evolved over centuries of conflict, integrating organic and inorganic components, adapting and self-modifying through countless engagements. That's impossible, Liu protested. The ship remembers, Marcus said softly. I can feel it through our connection. War across multiple galaxies, a final desperate gambit. He looked up. We sent ourselves back. Karina's holographic form materialized for the first time. A genderless figure composed of light and complex mathematical patterns. The original Lazarus was lost in the final battle of the Axiom War in the year 2387. As Earth fell, the ship's core consciousness, what remained of its crew merged with its systems, initiated a desperate temporal displacement. Crew merged with systems, Abernathy repeated. The original crew became one with the ship, Marcus explained, understanding flooding through him. Their consciousness, their DNA, their memories preserved in the crystal matrix. The schematics found by the Prosperity weren't blueprints. They were the ship's attempt to recreate itself, to be born again. An alarm interrupted, blaring from a previously dormant console. Proximity alert, TRINA announced. Derelict structure detected in Neptune's upper atmosphere. The view screen shifted to show a dilapidated orbital platform drifting through Neptune's outer clouds. Scorch marks and impact craters suggested battle damage. Mining platform NP-17. Lou read from the identifier. Abandoned after the resource wars of 2103. There shouldn't be anyone there. I'm detecting a life sign. TRINA countered. Faint, but present, and a quantum signature that matches. Mine, Marcus finished. It matches mine. We need to investigate, he decided, rising from the command chair. Prepare a shuttle. You can't go yourself, Lou protested. We've already lost too many people. Marcus's transformed eyes locked with hers. Whoever's over there survived for a reason. And they've been waiting a very long time. The shuttle bay was compact but efficient, a single craft nestled in launch cradles. As Marcus approached, the ship's biology continued its work, new circuits forming beneath his skin, memories surfacing that felt ancient yet immediate. The transformation is accelerating, CRINA noted as Marcus boarded the shuttle. Your compatibility exceeds all projections. Will I still be human when it's done? He asked. The AI hesitated. You will be what humanity must become to survive what's coming. As the shuttle launched toward the derelict platform, Marcus caught a glimpse of his reflection in the viewport. The man who gazed back was still recognizable as Marcus Wells, but something ancient and powerful now looked out through his eyes. The accumulated knowledge of centuries of warfare, compressed into a single vessel of flesh and crystal. He knew with bone-deep certainty who waited for him in that abandoned station. The only other human who had touched the heart of a ship that shouldn't exist yet. The derelict mining platform groaned under Neptune's relentless atmospheric pressure, its structural integrity failing after decades of abandonment. Marcus guided the shuttle into a partially collapsed docking bay, the vessel's advanced systems compensating for the platform's erratic rotational drift. Life sign is stable but weak, CRINA reported through his neural link. Located in Central Operations, Level 3. The shuttle locked into place with a metallic clang that echoed through the empty station. Marcus sealed his environment suit, the crystalline patterns beneath his skin providing additional illumination in the darkened bay. Atmosphere is thin but breathable, he noted, checking readings. Power signatures minimal, mostly emergency systems. The corridors were a maze of twisted metal and exposed circuitry. Wherever Marcus touched the walls, dormant systems flickered briefly to life, responding to the energy signature now emanating from his transformed cells. Central Operations had been converted into a makeshift living space. Salvaged equipment, food synthesizers, and medical technology surrounded a stasis pod in the center of the room. Inside, a figure floated in suspension fluid, connected to life support systems that pulsed with the same crystalline energy that now flowed through Marcus. He approached slowly, wiping condensation from the pod's viewport. Captain Reiko Tanaka's face was transformed almost beyond recognition. The crystalline structures had spread across her features more extensively than Marcus's, creating an exoskeletal lattice that merged with what appeared to be integrated technology. Her eyes opened at his approach, entirely luminescent blue without iris or pupil. You finally made it. Her voice crackled through an external speaker, rough from disuse. 4 years, 7 months, 13 days. I was beginning to think the timeline had collapsed. Captain Tanaka. Marcus breathed. The prosperity was destroyed. No, her altered mouth formed what might have been a smile. Taken, studied, dissected. Her gaze moved past him to the shuttle. You've brought the Lazarus. Good. It recognizes you. How did you survive? How did you get here? The crystalline structures across her body pulsed. The sphere from the asteroid. It chose me, like it later chose you. When the Axiom ships attacked, it changed me, protected me. The escape pod's navigation was overridden. Her voice grew distant. I've been waiting watching, gathering intelligence from abandoned communication arrays. The Axiom aren't the real enemy, Dr. Wells. Then who is? They have no name in any human language. The Axiom call them the Void Architects, ancient entities that exist beyond normal space, feeding on civilizations, manipulating species against each other for millennia. Her hand pressed against the inside of the pod. The Lazarus is the only weapon ever created that can harm them. Marcus helped Tanaka from the stasis pod, supporting her as atrophied muscles struggled to remember their function. Despite her physical weakness, the crystalline network covering her body hummed with palpable energy. "There are others," she said, gesturing to a makeshift communications array. "Colonies on Mars, Europa, Titan. They've been building ships based on fragments of the data I transmitted years ago. Other ships like the Lazarus. Lesser versions. The colonists lacked resources and complete data." She turned to him, her luminous eyes intense. "But together, they form the nucleus of a fighting force. The beginning of humanity's only hope." Back aboard the Lazarus, Tanaka interfaced directly with KRRNA, her crystalline structures merging seamlessly with the ship's systems. Data streamed between them at impossible speeds. 17 vessels, she announced to the assembled crew. None as advanced as the Lazarus, but each incorporating elements of its technology. All maintained in secret, hidden from the collaborators within Earth's governments. "How do we contact them?" Liu asked. "We don't need to." Tanaka smiled, her transformed face eerily beautiful in the blue light of the bridge. "They're already on their way." Marcus felt the crystal networks within his body resonating with new information, coordinates, recognition codes, tactical formations that had never been taught in any military academy. KRNA, he ordered, "Prepare a broadcast on all frequencies used by the outer colonies. Authentication code Lazarus Omega. The Axiom will detect the transmission," Liu warned. "We're counting on it," Tanaka replied. "It's time they learned what they're really fighting." The view screen displayed Neptune's orbital space as 17 ships of various designs emerged from hiding places within the planet's rings and moons. Each vessel bore the distinctive geometry of Lazarus technology, though none matched its perfection. "The Resistance Fleet," Marcus whispered. "No," Tanaka corrected, her crystalline hand resting on his shoulder, the structures beginning to harmonize and interlink. "The Vanguard." The Axiom Concordat's armada entered the solar system like a metallic tide. 37 warships arranged in perfect geometric formation, their hulls gleaming with otherworldly alloys that absorbed rather than reflected light. At their center, a vessel of unprecedented scale dominated the void, its structure less a ship than a mobile city built for war. "The Concordat flagship terminus," Tanaka identified, her voice resonating with KRNA's harmonics as they shared consciousness. "Commanded by Hierarch Vossith himself." In Neptune's orbit, the 18 ships of humanity's resistance appeared insignificant by comparison, a hastily assembled collection of modified vessels with mismatched hulls and improvised weapons. Only the Lazarus stood apart, its impossible geometry shifting subtly as it prepared for battle. "They outnumber us 2-1, Liu observed from her station, with superior tonnage and firepower. "Numbers won't matter," Marcus replied, the crystal lattice now covering 60% of his body. "Not for what comes next." The bridge had transformed during the 12 hours since Tanaka's arrival. What were once separate stations had merged into a unified interface that pulsed with crystalline energy. The surviving crew members had each begun their own transformations, subtle at first, then accelerating as the ship recognized their genetic compatibility. "All vessels reporting ready," Tanaka announced. "The neural network is stable." Through his enhanced consciousness, Marcus could sense each captain in their fleet, their thoughts, fears, and determination flowing into a collective awareness centered around the Lazarus. The ship was no longer merely a vessel. It had become a nexus of humanity's evolution, a cocoon for their metamorphosis into something the universe had never witnessed. Fleet command transferred to Lazarus. KRNA confirmed, initiating primary battle configuration. The resistance ships moved with sudden precision, arranging themselves into a formation that conventional military doctrine would deem suicidal, a perfect sphere with the Lazarus at its center. Axiom vessels accelerating, Liu reported. Weapons range in 30 seconds. Hold formation, Marcus commanded, his voice carrying to every ship through the neural network. Trust what you're becoming. The first salvo from the Axiom fleet tore through space, energy beams designed to shatter hulls and vaporize crew. As they approached the human formation, Marcus felt rather than ordered the response. The 17 ships projected unified energy fields that merged with the Lazarus's quantum barrier. The incoming Axiom fire didn't impact the shields. It simply ceased to exist, its energy absorbed and redirected through pathways that defied conventional physics. Impossible, whispered an Axiom communication they intercepted. They've unified their shield harmonics across multiple vessels. Marcus rose from the captain's chair, the restraints dissolving as his transformed body interfaced directly with the ship's core systems. Tanaka joined him, their crystalline structures resonating at matching frequencies. Around them, the remaining bridge crew underwent accelerated evolution, their humanity not disappearing but transcending into a collective consciousness spread across multiple vessels. They still don't understand what they're fighting, Tanaka observed, her voice both spoken and transmitted across the neural network. The Void Architects selected them for their obedience, not their vision. Through the view screen, the Axiom fleet adjusted tactics, splitting into attack wings to envelop the human formation. The massive terminus remained behind, charging what appeared to be a gravitational weapon capable of collapsing matter to its constituent particles. Now, Marcus commanded, the word rippling through the neural network. The 18 human vessels began to rotate around the Lazarus, accelerating to impossible speeds while maintaining perfect formation. The crystalline network linking them pulsed with increasing intensity, drawing energy not just from their drives, but from reality itself. Space-time began to warp around the human fleet, light bending as fundamental forces responded to their manipulation. The Axiom ships fired desperately, their weapons finding no purchase in the distorted physics surrounding their targets. In the heart of the Lazarus, Marcus and Tanaka merged their consciousness completely with KRNA and the ship's systems. Through this union, they glimpsed the original timeline, a future where humanity fought a losing battle for centuries before finally sending their essence back through time as a last desperate gamble. The warship wasn't just a weapon, Marcus realized, the thought shared instantly across the collective. It was a catalyst for our evolution. The rotating fleet reached critical velocity, tearing a hole in the fabric of reality itself. Through this rupture, they perceived the true enemy for the first time, vast, incorporeal entities that existed between dimensions, feeding on the conflict they orchestrated across countless worlds. The Void Architects, Tanaka confirmed. This is what the future version of ourselves saw before the end. The Axiom fleet faltered, their crews suddenly aware of the ancient deception that had bound their species for millennia. The massive terminus fired its gravitational weapon directly at the Lazarus, a last desperate attempt to fulfill programming they no longer fully believed. Marcus felt the weapon's impact not as destruction but as transformation. The energy cascaded through the crystalline network, amplified and redirected toward the interdimensional rupture. We don't destroy them, he understood with sudden clarity. We free them. The human fleet's formation collapsed inward, 18 ships momentarily occupying the same space, an impossibility that shattered conventional reality. The resulting pulse swept across the Axiom fleet, not destroying their ships but transforming their crews, breaking the psychic chains that had bound them to the Void Architects for countless generations. As normal space reasserted itself, the 18 human vessels reappeared, arranged in a new formation alongside the now liberated Axiom ships. Where there had been two opposing forces, there now stood a unified fleet of evolved consciousness, human and Axiom alike freed from the limitations of their separate species. Through their shared awareness, They sensed the Void Architects retreating from a reality suddenly hostile to their manipulation. The battle was won not through destruction, but through transcendence. On the Lazarus's bridge, Marcus gazed at his fully transformed hand, no longer flesh, no longer crystal, but something that existed simultaneously as both and neither. Not an ending of humanity, but its evolution into a state of existence that truly defied all logic and shouldn't exist yet. What happens now? Liu asked, her own transformation just beginning. We prepare, Tanaka answered. The Void Architects will return. But when they do, they'll find we've changed the rules of existence. Marcus finished, his gaze turning toward distant stars where other manipulated species awaited liberation. They'll find we've already won.